I'm very well. So give me the short description of what this bill is.
Well, first of all, we're happy that he's embracing our principles and policies. This is a trade procedure. This just determines how does an administration go about getting a trade agreement and how does Congress consider it. And it's really sort of the opposite of the old fast track. It's slow track. We wanted more accountability, more transparency, so that we as legislators can see what's going on. We can help determine how these trade agreements come out, and then the public needs to be able to see what's in these agreements, and then Congress retains veto authority over these agreements, and only Congress it makes a decision as to whether or not they go into force or not. So the thing we're trying to do here, Greta, is make sure that Congress is involved in the front end, so we determine what is in a trade agreement or what is not. We make sure that we have access to all the negotiating documents, which is not the case right now, during this process. And then when there is an agreement, that it's made public for 60 days. So that the public can see what's in an agreement, and then Congress makes a determination as to whether or not we want to accept or disapprove of a trade agreement. So we reserve that power as the power of the legislative branch. We think this is a good way of containing the executive branch and making sure that we can advance the cause of opening markets and creating jobs. This is really all about getting economic growth and jobs, but doing it the right way to adhere to the Constitution.
All right. Well, the Constitution just says the president can negotiate a trade deal,
That's right,
and Congress must approve it. So, you know, some people, some of your critics, critics who don't like it, say this concentrates too much power in the executive branch, meaning this president this time, and if there's a Republican president or Republican president next time. They don't like the idea that too much power is shifting to the executive branch, and I guess in part because people don't fully trust the government.
Well, join the club. Neither do I, especially this administration. That's why we're writing this TPA this way. The Congressional Research Service made it very clear. This doesn't transfer any power to the executive branch. It's the opposite. We take the power and assert it in the legislative branch. Look, the key for getting a trade agreement.
Why does President Obama like it? Why does a sitting president like this if the president's sort of losing power to you?
Because we won Congress. We Republicans control the House and the Senate, and if he wants to get anything done, it's going to have to be in our terms. And he does want to get a trade agreement done, and if he does, then it has to be done on our terms as Republicans, and these are our terms. Now, why do we want to get a trade agreement? Let me just get that. We want to get a trade agreement so that we can open up markets to our products, so we can make and grow more things in America and sell them overseas to create more jobs and get faster economic growth. Jobs based on trade pay more, and we want more of that.
But even without this agreement, you could still, negotiate trade agreements. It would just be a different procedure. I mean, those trade agreements could still be negotiated. It's almost as though it appears that this is sort of a way to get around sort of the dysfunction of Congress, is that because you can't get everybody to agree, and after the president negotiates something, there would be sort of nitpicking at it. So in some ways, it seems like this is a way to get around what some may see as the dysfunction of Congress to agree to get things passed.
It's the other way around. You're right. He can just go out and negotiate an agreement and do it in secret and keep Congress out of the loop and then just throw it on the desk in Congress. That's what he's doing with Iran. Imagine if we had trade promotion authority in place with Iran. If we had this kind of power with his Iranian negotiations, we would be able to see what actually the Iranians offered, what we Americans offered. We could go to these negotiations as members of Congress, and then when an agreement is reached, but before it is signed, it's made public for 60 days, and then it can't take effect until Congress approves it. If only we had this power of trade promotion authority for his negotiations with Iran. So what we think we're doing here is restoring transparency, accountability, and getting the legislative branch more in charge of this process instead of, like you say, just waiting and watching a president go do what he wants and then throwing something to Congress. That's not how we want to do this, because we want more assertiveness by the legislative branch, more transparency, more accountability, but we do want trade agreements because we need to open markets to our products. 95% of the world's consumers, Greta, they don't live in America. They live in other countries. We need to make more things and sell them overseas. We're getting the votes. We're doing very well. I think we're doing very well. I really believe that we will get there.
All right.
Why? Because trade's good for jobs.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Greta.